Anti-Israel hatred on full display at Columbia University's Barnard College. Anti-Zionism or anti-Semitism? Now the Trump administration is reviewing more than $5 billion in promised grants to Columbia. Raphael Shore is the author of the book, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Jew? And a documentary film producer of Tragic Awakening. Rabbi Shore is also the founder of the Clarion Project. That's an organization that exposes Islamic threats to the West, and Open Door Media, a company that addresses anti-Semitism on college campuses. Rabbi Shore, last week, anti-Israel protesters seized a building at Barnard College, demanding amnesty for 2 students who were expelled for interrupting a History of Modern Israel class. Jewish students struggled just to get to class, and then some of those Jewish students wanted to stage a counter-protest, but they weren't allowed into the building. So HHS, the Department of Education and General Services, announced, in addition to the review of grants, they may halt more than $50 million in contracts to the university due to, quote, ongoing inaction in the face of relentless harassment of Jewish students. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good move. Look, this has been going on for almost a year and a half, since October 7th, shocking pogrom against the Jewish people in Israel, which was then met by pro-Hamas rallies all over universities in North America, which frankly traumatized the entire generation of young Jewish students. I have a nephew who's at NYU. He had to leave the college. All the professors, all the students came out against him, pro-Hamas. It was just shocking. And these are students who are Jewish, but not so involved, not pro-Israel. So the tolerance at these universities of the racism and anti-Semitism was just egregious and was not dealt with a proper heavy hand that it needed to be. And as a result, it just keeps going. And it's really terrible because Jews do not feel safe. I think the last poll showed 80% of Jewish students have seen and experienced anti-Semitism on their campuses. That's unacceptable.
Beyond Columbia, President Trump recently signed an executive order establishing an anti-Semitism task force to investigate and ensure that colleges and universities do more to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitism. So what do you think of that step? Does it go far enough?
Well, it's the right direction. You know, this is what needs to happen, and there needs to be financial consequences, and these universities need to think twice. And unfortunately, they're major businesses, these universities, and the only thing that's really going to speak to them is financial disincentives. So I think it is the right direction. And listen, I wrote my book on this subject because I think that young people need to understand the nature of this phenomena. What is going on? After October 7th, everybody's asking, I thought this was over. I thought anti-Semitism was over.
Well, it's not just them. Since October 7th, more than 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents have been reported in the United States. So tell us about the film you've just produced about October 7th, Tragic Awakening. Most of our viewers would agree that the massacre of Jews that day was a tragedy, but have we awakened to the reality as to why it occurred and the possibility that it could happen again?
Well, that's the idea, tragic awakening. It was such a tragedy, but through the tragedy, the question is being asked, why the Jews? Why is it that 3,000 years this phenomena of Jew hatred is going on and it still has not ceased? We thought it was over after World War II. No, it's not over. The Islamists are still trying to destroy the Jewish people. Now we see in America a movement of anti-Semitism larger than we ever thought possible. We need to get to the root of it, and that's why I created this film and the book, to get to the deeper understanding, because we've had a superficial understanding, thinking that it's just regular bias, regular prejudice, but anti-Semitism goes much deeper, and I probe Hitler's ideology in depth in the book to show that Hitler understood who the Jews were, and he understood it was an ideological war, that the Jewish people actually are making a deep impact on civilization in ways that he doesn't want to, because evil tries to prevent the ideologies of humanitarianism that are coming into the world. So that's what we need to get to the depth of so that we can be protected against the onslaught.
Up next, parallels between Nazism and modern-day Islamic extremism, and Adolf Hitler's view of Christians and the Big Bad Jews.
Friday, the Trump administration canceled $400 million of federal funding to Columbia University over its inaction to combat rampant anti-Semitism on campus. Well, I'm joined by Columbia Assistant Professor Shai Davidi, who has become the face of the pro-Israel movement on campus. Shai, what do you think about this move from President Trump?
Well, I have to say, it's regardless of what you think of the president, you agree with the president, you disagree with the president made promises. The president made certain attempts to let the universities know that this will come if they won't step up their game. They refused to step up their game, and now the president is following up on his promises and giving them the consequences. That's what it's like being in a democracy.
So here's the question. I think for a lot of folks who see this from the outside, they just kind of see bits and pieces and they say, what's the big deal? It's a protest. Protest is allowed. You know, why are you guys making such a big deal out of this? Can you maybe walk, the average folk through, is there actually anti-Semitism on your campus? What does it actually look like in person?
If you're only tuning in now, that's totally fine. It's better late than never. And I'll tell you this. Over the past week, forget the past year and a half, over the past week, we've had two violent takeovers of buildings at Columbia University. One in last week, and then when the students didn't get what they want, again, 2 days ago. Those events were 6-hour takeovers of buildings where the university refused to do anything about them. They were all wrapped in keffiyehs and masks, so they couldn't even identify them and give consequences to the students that just barged into the buildings and refused to come out with their drums. But worse of all of that, they were giving out printed propaganda of Hamas, a U.S. designated terrorist organization, basically has its propaganda arm inside the university. The university has known about this for a year and a half. It's been getting so many messages from federal and state government, you have to do something about it. For some reason, they refused to do it. And so the government did the only reasonable thing. You don't act in the American way, you don't get American taxpayers' money. Now, there's a lot more taxes that they're getting, and I hope the university now realizes that it's $3.5 billion a year that they're getting is at risk.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading a lot of these reports, is that this might just be the beginning. But quick question, Shai, are you still barred from campus?
I am personally barred from campus.
Crazy.
Since October 15th, 2024. I don't know if I told you this. I'm still employed, so I needed books for my office, for my work. I asked to come in. They wouldn't let me go into my office to get my books. I asked, can my wife come in and get my books? And they wouldn't even let my wife get into the office to get my own books and my own personal items.
So I think for a lot of folks who look at Ivy League schools like, these ivory towers where there's this total disconnect from reality, why is the administration so scared of doing something about people openly supporting Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, and these people that committed an absolute massacre? Why is that so, for lack of better words, not kosher for the administration?
I have to, unfortunately, wake a lot of people up to how these universities are run. Columbia University is a $14 billion endowed organization. And it's run by a bureaucrat. It's run by mid-level managers, people that are really, really good at what they are supposed to do. But running these organizations is not what they are trained to do. What I've been telling people have been asking me, where is the leadership? And I tell them, there is no leadership at Columbia because we do not have leaders. We have managers that were really, really good at managing their 5-person or 10-person team. Now that they are in charge of 40,000 students, thousands of professors, and 14 billion non-taxed endowment, they just don't know what to do. They are in over their head.
Okay, well, Shai, let me ask you this last question. For folks who see this and they think to themselves, what am I going to do with this information? How can I help? And I think for a lot of folks, there seems to be this explosion of anti-Semitism from Australia to the UK to your school. And the average Joe is just sitting there being like, what do I do with this? So if my friend here is watching and they know this is wrong, they know that anti-Semitism is not okay, what can my friend here actually do?
Thank you for this question, because it's an extremely important point to make. There's a statement that people say in the Middle East. First they come for the Saturday crowd, then they come for the Sunday crowd. Meaning first they come for the Jews, then they come for the Christians. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is not about Israel. This is about the United States of America. If you listen to the protesters on Columbia's campus, in downtown New York City, LA, San Francisco, Toronto, wherever you are, they are not just saying death to Israel. They are saying burn it all down. Down with American imperialism. Down with the USA. So I appreciate every person's allyship, and I stand with my allies, but people have to remember they're not coming for me. They're coming for us. And we have to bring back common sense, moderate strength to America. And I don't care if you're a liberal, a conservative, a Democrat, a Republican, those are labels. First and foremost, you are an American. You are a Western value individual who believes in these things, basic things of humanity, and you just have to stand up and speak up. We cannot let extremists from the extreme left or the extreme right take control of the narrative. It's up to us, moderate. I'm a parent. You're a parent. I'm a son to amazing parents myself. I have an amazing wife. We have to stand up for us, for people, for humanity. That's the only way we can beat this.
Shai, toda rabah, Shabbat Shalom, my friend.
Thank you so much. And, one thing that I always remind people, I'm wearing this shirt as well. There are still 59 hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza, including Idan Alexander, an American citizen, 20 years old kid. So let's get all of them back home.